What's going on, everybody? It's Friday night. Did not expect to be on this specific Fandom Empire outlet tonight. We got a lot to talk about. We're talking Halloween ends again right off the top. That's not the centerpiece of tonight's show, though. The centerpiece of tonight's show is going to be some pretty in-deep wrestling talk because it supposedly is at the end of an era. We'll get into that in just a little bit. But we're also going to touch on some massive Game of Thrones / House of the Dragon news, as well as The Walking Dead. And we'll touch on all those topics tonight. Joining me for this one, it's Jared. What's going on, man?
It's been a day.
This must be, like, you're a much bigger wrestling fan than me. So I can only imagine, like, this is the type of day you're going to remember for the rest of your life.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I saw Tony Khan's tweet before anything.
Oh, I didn't know he tweeted.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He had tweeted that as of right now, I'm the longest running CEO in pro wrestling. Don't forget Rampage is tonight at 10.
Wow.
Yeah. So I didn't think anything of it. I had only known that Triple H had returned to his talent relations job. So I was like, that's weird and doesn't tie in. And then I start seeing the posts on Dark Match Drive, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I'm standing in Walmart. I'm like, I got to see what this is. And then, I see Vince's tweet, and then I kind of put it all together. It's been a chaotic day of, with Lesnar and plans changing, and I don't know.
I cannot wait to dive into it all. Quickly, though, before we get off of wrestling for a second, I was at work. There's two mechanics that are there. They're both probably late 50s, early 60s. And I'm getting ready to leave, and they're talking. And the one guy's like, oh, did you hear Vince McMahon's done with WWE? Or I think he called it WWF, to be more specific. And the other guy's like, oh, no, I didn't hear that. He's finally giving it up, huh? He's like, yeah. So I just figured, what's been going on, right? Yeah. I didn't know, that it had actually happened. So yep. Jade ends up picking me up from work today, and I'm scrolling through my phone. I'm like, oh, it was a moment for sure.
Yeah, it came out of left field. I mean, well, kind of. It's kind of like the other shoe dropping in a way. So
I think there was a lot of denial about the entire thing for a long time from a lot of people, even myself. Like, I thought that it should lead to this. I don't know if it got there the way I think it would have gotten there, or maybe it did. We don't really know. We'll get into that. But I can't believe I'm about to say this before we get into Halloween. I looked at Jade today and I said, there's more of a chance that I will watch WWE programming again than there has been in like a decade and a half for me. So
yep. Agreed. I mean, we're waiting for one other shoe to drop. We're waiting for that director to get canned, and then it'll be fully watchable again.
I think I read somewhere that he's likely on the outs.
He's not the biggest. He's not supported by the new regime, from what I'm hearing. So,
was there ever another name to drop earlier today? I know Fightful had that there'd be another one, but
no, nothing has really dropped other than the Brock news. And I mean, John Laurinaitis obviously got his package and he's done with.
Yeah.
But I guess everyone's in place at the moment. Nick Khan and Stephanie are co-CEOs. Triple H is talent relations, and I guess Bruce is helping handle creative. And Kevin Dunn's still there changing those fucking camera angles.
Man,
for the time being, we'll see.
I saw Fightful post something, and I think it was about Kevin Dunn's future or whatever in a tweet. So we'll touch on that in just a little bit, though. First up, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a few days. The Halloween Ends teaser trailer has come and gone. And I have to say, the reception to it is better than I thought it would be. Not that I think it's a bad teaser. I actually think it's a fantastic teaser, minus obviously the one big part. And I mean, at this point, there's no point in hiding it. Everybody knows about it. It's the hand. And Melissa's already been talking in the chat about how people are saying that's not Michael. Yeah, it's not Michael, obviously. We're at that point now, but it'll be another thing when it comes time to actually see the movie if the reception's going to be so warm. How are you feeling a few days after the teaser? I'll admit, after I seen it, it was kind of like, whatever. It's okay. And I've watched it probably 5 or 6 more times. And I gotta say, man, just the visuals of that trailer remind me of an old school horror movie. It doesn't have this, super modern look to it, and that excites me.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has this aura to it where it's not a modern horror film. And I think that's an advantage to it because Halloween Kills was essentially, Michael versus the world, and that's very modern in a sense. There was not that there wasn't suspense to it, but there was lacking suspense to the Michael character because he would just show up and waste everyone and move on. He was there. There was no build up to it. I mean, they were coming to him. So I think this one might tone it down in that sense, in a good way. And I mean, yeah, the trailer is what it is, and it told us some things. And now I think it's from the movie perspective, it's all right, how we get there is the intriguing part. Because we know it's there, we know it's happening. How are they going to tell that story within, a 2-hour period that is going to not get backlash? I'm hoping they tell a good story to where they get to parts that, it's better than we think going in. So
Multiverse of Geek Madness puts out there Halloween Ends has made me finally watch John Carpenter's Christine, and whoa, great film. It is a great film. It's fantastic. It's legendary. But whoa, Halloween Ends. Yeah, they're really on the nose with that one, aren't they?
Yeah,
I kind of wish David Gordon Green never would have came out and been like, yeah, it's sort of like Christine, because it's sort of like Christine. So
yeah, there's a female lead, right? Christine, Jamie Lee Curtis. There's crossover.
I'm sitting at a pretty good place after the teaser trailer. I think we might be getting something else. I don't know if it's over the weekend or next week. But I want to bring something up, just like on the marketing thing. I don't want to stay on negativities too long. Because for me, anyways, this feels like a positive day, a positive movement whenever something like today's events happen. That's just the way I take it. I know there's people out there that are utterly heartbroken today for what happened. I've seen some of it too. Some of it's pretty wild. But with that said, releasing your teaser trailer, your first like promotional material for the movie, on the same week that San Diego Comic-Con is, doesn't feel like maybe the, best of choices. And I say that because one day later, it got thumped into the ground by Game of Thrones House of the Dragon in the media. And then actually, I believe Lord of the Rings the same day, too. And then we started to get all the San Diego Comic-Con stuff. And within a couple of days, Halloween is in the rearview mirror. Maybe not for Halloween fans, but for like a 24-hour period, it had social media. In fact, it had social media on a higher level than Halloween Kills did, but not for nearly as long because of the placement. And now it's already buried and forgotten with everything that's coming out of San Diego Comic-Con. Any takes on that?
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, how... In a way, they were almost forced into dropping the trailer when they did. I mean, they were going to drop it on the 20th anyways, so it came out. And, I mean, how much longer would they have been able to wait? I mean, would it have gained the proper traction if they had done it, let's say, 7/26 rather than 7/20, knowing that everything had already dropped beforehand? Do you think it's strong enough to, swipe some of that attention away from, House of the Dragon and whatnot?
So the date that we had heard for quite some time, what is this the right date? When did the trailer drop? The trailer dropped on Tuesday, right? The 19th?
Yeah, it
It's
dropped the
supposed to be
night
the
of the
20th.
19th.
So the Friday was
We were live when it dropped.
The 15th was the day I heard. If you
Yeah,
dropped
because
it
we were
on,
supposed to get it the week before.
yeah, if we would have gotten it on the 14th or the 15th, then Halloween has, 5 or 6 days instead of 24 hours before they get squashed by two mammoths like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. And hey, I love Halloween. And in fact, in terms of franchise property, I love Halloween more than those other two properties. But comparing the size of the Halloween fandom and its effect on social media compared to those other two things, it's not close. And now you have, God knows what coming out of San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, they got their 15 minutes in the sun, and it wasn't much longer than that. And
By the way,
everything else happened.
For those in the chat, feel free to send some questions into the chat, and we will get to them when we can. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/Fandom Empire. I don't have the new graphics, so I'll use the old one. Patreon.com/Fandom Empire. We appreciate the support that you guys have given us over there. Or you can send in a super chat on the channel, or just comment in the chat, and we'll get to it when we can. There is some Halloween news to get to, though, that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet. And that news is that despite Halloween Kills being advertised for to be released in IMAX and then very quietly not be released in IMAX, although we did get Dolby Cinema, which for a lot of people, they enjoy that more than IMAX. I'm not one of them personally. Halloween Ends is, in fact, going to be in IMAX. And for me, my favorite way to enjoy a movie at the cinema is in IMAX. Now, was it shot for IMAX? Excuse me. No. It's a low-budget film. They're not getting out there with $200 million. But I am excited to see it in IMAX. I saw somebody ask them if it was going to be in classic IMAX ratio, and they didn't reply, and that kind of worries me, because if it's not in the IMAX ratio, then it's kind of like, what's the point? Do you have any experience seeing films in IMAX? Do you have any experience seeing films in IMAX?
I think I saw at least one movie in IMAX, and I noticed it being different, but it didn't really jump out as more of an experience to me, I guess. So I'm kind of on the fence about it. Like, it's cool, but yeah.
I think the films that people can probably point to more than any others in fandom anyway would be the Dark Knight trilogy, specifically the last two, The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, the way those two were filmed, both heavily shot in IMAX, and I think it shows big time. And the quality definitely was a lot higher. But yeah, Halloween Ends is going to be released in IMAX this October. I'm trying really, really hard at the moment to get some sort of idea if Halloween Ends is going to be going to TIFF, which is the Toronto International Film Festival. I've gotten nothing from that. And the weird thing is, I've gotten nothing from them about just hardly anything. Usually TIFF by now is really starting to lay out their lineup and sell tickets, and maybe that's right around the corner. But when I called, they had no word on Halloween Ends, and we'll have to see. If it's there, then at least a couple of us will be in attendance there, and that will be a lot of fun. But how do you guys feel in the chat? Halloween Ends is heading to IMAX. I dig it. I think Halloween Kills would have been the better film in IMAX, but I am really, really excited. So
just kick that door in IMAX.
I think there's some just incredible opportunities with a film in IMAX, and I believe it's being released in Dolby Cinemas as well. So like they're doing both. That's pretty big. Dean Renner, IMAX. You and your IMAX hate. So not another Peacock release. I've heard nothing about Peacock. I I don't see why it would release on Peacock at the same time this time. I'm guessing you'd be waiting the standard. I want to say it's 45 days, or maybe it's 14 days. I don't know. I can't remember what it got lowered to, and if that was just during lockdowns and stuff. So
I think it was 14 because it dropped real quick after we saw it in theaters.
Same day actually.
Yeah, like I saw it pop up real quick, and I was like, "What?" Because I didn't know about the dual release thing, so I was like, "That's weird." I guess due to lockdown and all that, everything changed.
Well, I mean, in retrospect, the film did quite well, all things considered. Not being full attendance for Halloween Kills and being released at the same time on Peacock, I think it still made like $129 million worldwide, which is pretty good off of $15 to $20 million budget. So
yeah,
after their lovely rebate they got for shooting
pretty penny
in, where was it? Dylan was in here earlier. He shot in that movie, but North Carolina, I think it is. North or South Carolina. It's one of the Carolinas. Anyways, let's move on. We're going to touch on this briefly here. Jared, I don't know. Were you ever a fan of The Walking Dead, man?
No, I prefer my dead to stay in the ground.
Yeah, me too. The day that happens, I'm in a lot of trouble.
I watched the first season, and it was all right, but I don't know. I've heard it kind of gets away from being a zombie show and more intra-character show. And
yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. That's a very accurate way to put it.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's hard because the show is The Walking Dead, it's not the people surviving The Walking Dead and everything they're dealing with each other. Like, I mean, that might be too long of a show title, but that's just me. Yeah, I don't know. Give me simple zombie stories. It's a zombie thing. Just we don't need to go over everyone's head with anything. Just give me 15 people running through and shooting zombies. I'd watch 11 seasons of that.
Absolutely, I'm right there with you. I love zombie warfare. I actually liked The Walking Dead for a long time, though. I was with them till I think it was like season whenever they got to Alexandria. I thought it kind of got and then they brought Jeffrey Dean Morgan in as Negan, and I don't know. The show kind of went off the rails for me there. But whenever like a very popular hit TV show has a lead actor that's extremely popular, and then that lead actor leaves that show, I would argue that show is never the same again. There might be rare instances where you can be like, oh, that show continued to be as successful or got more successful after the main character left. Well, there's been rumors for years about Rick Grimes' return, and it's finally happening. While it still might happen in the series finale, they are doing a 6-part limited series next year on AMC Plus. I guess that's a thing, an AMC streaming service. But that will be a 6-episode series, and all we know about it is it will feature Rick and Michonne, and Andrew Lincoln said the gang is getting back together, and then it seemed like the head of the show was kind of annoyed that he even said that, because that implied other characters would be coming in, and it kind of ended awkwardly. So almost as if they said too much. But Rick Grimes is finally returning, and this will be in place of the movies. The movies are no longer happening. So surprise, surprise. The other big thing that happened this week was not only did Game of Thrones House of the Dragon drop a behind-the-scenes sizzle reel, which I highly recommend to anybody that likes the behind-the-scenes stuff on big productions. I think it's fantastic. It's a great look at just how insane this show is. And then they followed that up by dropping the teaser. And all of this is before they even get to Comic-Con. So they're really putting themselves out there. Jer, I think you said you'd watched Game of Thrones. Have you had a chance to check out any of the House of the Dragon stuff?
I watched. Well, we watched a video on here earlier a couple weeks ago, did we not?
Yeah, that was
the
first trailer. I think
the one with all the candles. I think it was. I want to say.
Yeah, that was the first trailer.
Yeah. Okay. So I saw that, and I have the book. I believe this is based off the first prequel book. I think.
Fire and Blood. Yes.
Yes.
So I think he's supposed to do 2 of them, but We only have the one out right now.
Oh, you mean Martin not releasing books on time? Foreign concept.
I think the show looks amazing, man. I think that the production quality is through the roof. The cast looks spectacular. They did release some details, though, over the last 24 to 48 hours or so, which some people might like and some others might not. And some of those details are these ones here. And that is the show is going to be told in a linear story, which is a lot different than what we thought we were getting. A lot of people thought we were going to be jumping back and forth in time, following these characters from their youth to their adulthood. And it turns out that the first portion of season 1 of House of the Dragon is going to be, I forget when exactly it's set, but and then the second half of season 1, it's going to be a 10-year time jump, and then we catch up to those characters then, and it sort of stays at that time throughout the next 4 to 5 seasons. But George R.R. Martin went and said that that would probably be the end of this specific group of characters' story, and then they would go back and tell the story of Aegon the Conqueror, who Jon Snow's kind of named after, and is the he had Balerion, the big dragon skull at King's Landing that Arya's hiding in at that time. So it sounds like House of the Dragon might end up telling basically the whole Targaryen story and not just one set of characters. And there is some hints that they might close it with Robert's Rebellion, which would be the Mad King and all that. So you'd get a lot of characters recast because this would be 7 or 8 years from now. But I like the idea of doing it like that. Some people might not like it, but I'm open to it. How about you, man?
I think it works. I mean, give as much context as possible, even if you got to do a 10-year jump, right? Because that's kind of what Game of Thrones did. It gave us backstories to certain relationships that then, played out further in seasons later on, even if they had to jump around a little bit. And I mean, sure, some of the jumps didn't pay off and whatnot, but that's another story. I'm personally hoping that it does end up with the rebellion, because that's something tangible that people connected to, but we've never seen or really heard much about it. So it gives further context to season 1 of Game of Thrones and further. So I think that's a positive, because it's not, even though it is its separate world and separate story, there are going to be little threads that do tie in. It doesn't need to be, a Game of Thrones prequel per se, where everything leads into it. But give us those little threads that we can say, oh, I remember that. Or, so it's a little fan service, but hey, it gives more context to the story that we've already seen. And I think that's what a prequel should do in a sense. As long as, on top of telling its own story, give us those little threads that connect to the other stories that we've already been told.
No, absolutely. I'm totally with you. I'm trying to think of the other piece of news that came out of Game of Thrones land. That was the big one, though, is that the show is likely gonna. Oh, sorry, no, I guess that's 2 pieces. The show is going to end up changing cast and go to different airs, but that this first main one here with Matt Smith and all them is going to be the primary focus and probably get 4 or 5 seasons out of, and then the other 2 stories would be shorter, which is fine. And I know people will argue, well, why would we need to see Robert's Rebellion? We know what happens, and we've already met all the characters that lives. But it's like, you also know of some characters that died that are pretty, legendary in terms of just their lore and stuff and their history. But that's the whole point of a prequel, is you create new characters that you can get the audience attached to and then kill them off. And like, you got shows like the Jon Snow sequel coming, where you can reference some of these older characters again that didn't maybe get a chance to get referenced in Game of Thrones because they didn't exist then.
And Jon Snow is a perfect example of a character they've tried to kill off.
They tried.
Yeah, they succeeded, kind of.
Oh, boy. Anyways, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragons, less than 1 month away, as is Lord of the Rings. crazy time to be in fandom. But the big news of the day, the earth-shattering wrestling news of the day is, at least for now, I got a bunch of questions for Chair, but Vince McMahon has retired, not just as the CEO, but all of his creative duties at WWE. Now, he's still the lead shareholder in WWE, which makes me wonder if he can just reinsert himself whenever he pleases. If he decides against retirement, that part's kind of makes me wonder a bit. But Jer, why don't you break it all down for us as best as you can off the top? This is a historic day.
All right. So the backstory is Vince was implicated in paying people who worked underneath him settlements for sexual favors and non-disclosure agreements, and upwards of $12.5 million. And this story came out about 2 weeks ago. And so nothing really changed. Vince claimed he had stepped down as CEO, and Stephanie was brought in, and then everything kept going the way it was meant to go. And then about a week after that, another story breaks that Vince had done the same to other people in the company. So there's this narrative that is collecting steam here. So we weren't sure, okay, is this going to make a difference? You know, it didn't. This first story didn't. So the second story drops. And then about a week later, Vince was very defiant to these stories coming out. After his appearance on SmackDown, the day the original story dropped, he basically said, fuck him, when he came backstage. And that is his idea of fighting this. And it's the same thing that happened with the steroid trial, which is funny that today is the 28th anniversary of Vince getting off on those steroid trials.
There's the whole neck brace bit, right?
Yeah. So funny date on that. Yeah. So then out of the blue today, Vince tweets, I'm 77. It's time I retire. Then, now, forever. Thank you. Something along those lines. And this came out of not came out of nowhere, but everyone feels like this is more of a preventative measure. And what I mean by that is there's another story coming. There's more stuff dropping that we don't know about yet, but it's in the works. And this feels like we got to get ahead of this before it drops. If we can get Vince out of here before these other stories come out, then we can kind of dodge the bullet as a company. And I think that's the mindset that they're going into. So Vince has stepped down from his executive position as CEO and everything, and head of creative. He's not at SmackDown tonight. Kevin Dunn and Bruce Pritchard are running SmackDown from the creative end, from what I was told. So this leads to a bunch of different things, because earlier today, the other name that was kind of caught in the crossfire of this was former head of talent relations, John Laurinaitis. And he was quietly removed from his position like maybe a week or two ago. And everyone felt that, he's going to take the bullet for Vince and everything will be fine. Not so fast, because the second story came out. So John Laurinaitis is essentially going to be given a severance package. Thank you very much. We appreciate you, but we got to get you out the door. Even though the blowback came to Vince. So that means that the talent relations job was open. The same job that Triple H was fired from for failing with NXT about, almost 2 years ago now. And so it was announced today that Triple H is the head of talent relations and the executive vice president again. That's strange. But I mean, I guess it makes sense, right? And then Vince's tweet drops later today. And it's like, okay, that now it's starting to make sense. And now the co-CEO is Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan, the president of WWE. So they'll be making the major decisions. Vince still technically owns the company based on stock options and all that. So that's kind of tricky waters there. I'm not sure how they're going to navigate that, because that'll still blow back on them if this story drops, later on. So they haven't really done much with that. So that leads us to what happened at around 4 o'clock today, where WWE sent out an internal memo text to all the talent, everybody in the company. It's basically Vince saying, everything in the tweet, thank you. I'm going to be watching SmackDown, so, give it your best shot out there and whatever. And then word comes out that Brock Lesnar left the building. Okay, well, Brock Lesnar is scheduled for the main event of SummerSlam in 8 days against Roman Reigns. This is, bad news. So last I heard where that story was at was Brock basically felt that no Vince, no me, which is fair. But also, you don't want to build, they've put over 2 guys in the past 3 years, and when one of them basically fucks off, that's not good for ticket sales, for, Peacock subscriptions, So where we stand right now is Stephanie opened SmackDown with a thank you Vince promo. Whatever, it is what it is. Kevin Dunn is not well liked. The director is not well liked by Stephanie and Triple H. Now, this could mean changes to the visual product, please, because they literally tweeted 10 minutes ago Sonya Deville hitting somebody into the turnbuckle 15 times, and there's probably 27 camera cuts. So this national nightmare is not quite over yet. But the backup story on Brock is they're talking. I don't know if this is confirmed or just Twitter bullshit, but all I've seen is if they can't get Brock for SummerSlam, they'll give Goldberg a call. Yeah. Which is funny because they just did Roman and Goldberg at the last Saudi Arabia show. Exactly. So, and apparently Creative is upset with the card for SummerSlam. That came out this weekend too. The same Creative that came up with the fucking card themselves.
Oh boy, this is a mess. It's bad, and just on a day where I wanted to give them credit, and then I seen David Irwin put in the chat what you just said, how Stephanie opened the show, and for me it was kind of like it took a big step forward just to take a tiny step back. And I know it's just a tiny step back, but you didn't need to do that. I get it. Make no mistake. The wrestling business, including AEW, is nowhere near as successful today if it's not for the likes of Vince McMahon and mainstream entertainment. No one can ever take that away from him, whether you agree with the guy's methods or not. He's probably going to go down as the most successful wrestling promoter of all time. I don't think I'll be alive long enough to see someone else take that from him. So, but
he'd prefer to be called a sports entertainment promoter.
I'm sure he would. Because
wrestling is what they do in the South, and he's better than all those guys.
Boy. I don't know what happens here, man. I don't know how you do business with Brock Lesnar. He's a draw. That's how you do business with Brock Lesnar. But if he's just going to fuck off whenever he wants, and then also knowing what Vince is accused of, what does that say about Brock Lesnar?
Yeah, and I saw an interesting take on the Brock thing. Is Brock running because he's afraid stories are going to come out about him?
The one already did, and he kind of got let off with it, right?
Yeah. Him showing his teeny wanger to people, and Is there more that we don't know about there? How deep are these investigations going? And it's interesting. Somebody pointed out the lack of reach or the lack of making a difference for wrestling media, because people have, in the wrestling media specifically, have reported on Vince's bullshit for years and years and years, and nothing has happened. 2 Wall Street Journal articles, and Vince is gone. Because you need to get outside of this bubble to make a difference. And I guess we're finding out the repercussions of that wrestling bubble that Vince essentially created. And maybe that's why he wants to stay in his bubble. Like, he was mad at his writers for watching, a Richard Pryor comedy set instead of watching Santino at WrestleMania on the jet. So Vince lives in this bubble and doesn't understand that, hey, there's a bigger world outside and you can't be doing this shit. Because in Vince's little bubble, he can get away with this shit. But once it gets outside, it bites him in the ass real quick.
Yeah, you don't have the protection of your company at that point. You're in over your head, and I think that really, really showed this past during these events. Really, man, like Vince McMahon's gone for now, but there's my first big question for you: is what stops him from, main shareholder, owner of the company, being like, you know what? I don't think I'm retired anymore. Is there something in place to stop that from happening?
Well, the other thing that's happening is WWE hired an independent law firm to look into all of these allegations. So what I'm thinking might have also happened is not even that the stories dropping now are going to be damaging, but also this law firm found enough already. It's only been 2 weeks that the board of directors basically said, Vince, you got to get the fuck out of here, because this report is going to come out and it's going to damage us. And it's hard because Vince has never put the company before himself. He's never had to. And I think Vince, this is not Vince saying, okay, I'm stepping back, it's my time. No, because if Vince had believed that, he would have done that the second these allegations had dropped. And he didn't. He came out and, wanted the fans bowing to him and said, fuck him, because that's Vince. Vince is very confrontational when dealing with these things. So Vince's idea the past 2 weeks has been, I'm going to fight this. This can't hurt me. I'm Vince McMahon. And it's not that anymore. Vince was likely forced out. And I don't know if that's enough to get in his head where he's like, okay, I can't do this. I need to step back and not let this affect the company. It can affect me, but it can't affect the company anymore. And I think it hasn't been around long enough for it to really, for the shoes to really start dropping where, I don't think the TV networks care. Obviously, they didn't really give a shit when all this dropped. I mean, if more stuff kept dropping, who knows?
Well, that's the thing, is what else is going to drop? Because I'm with you. I've seen people online, and usually they're the Vince McMahon fanatics. Not to say like Vince is the only one that has them. There's fanatics everywhere for all various, famous people. But like, to me, this had forced out written all over it. Like, here's your forced retirement. You need to leave. And the only reason to do that at this point, if you didn't do it 2 weeks ago, is something's coming. And I have a feeling it might be something big.
Yeah, something's coming. We don't know what yet, but we know there's stories being worked on right now. And it's damaging enough that they had to get out ahead of it. I don't know what that says, but the fact that Vince publicly stated, I'm retiring, I'm done, and because the first two weren't enough. They had to have information that these stories are getting worse and you have to get out of here, because they can brush Laurinaitis under the rug. He's a small pea in the main picture of this. And now that mainstream media is coming for him, and it's a different world now. It's not like Vince can just dance around the steroid charges. And, I mean, yeah, he was at risk of going to prison, and he was going to give, I mean, it's a rumor, but he was going to give day-to-day operations to Jerry Jarrett. Ooh, that's actually kind of funny, because who is now the president of live events for WWE? But his son, Jeff. Everything comes full circle.
If anybody in the chat, too, by the way, has anything they want to say wrestling-wise, WWE-wise, even AEW-wise, but specifically Vince-wise, feel free to put it in the comment section, and we will get to it. And if you have any Halloween or Game of Thrones or Walking Dead or just fandom-related questions, you can put them in, too, but we won't get to those ones until we're getting ready to wrap up here. I wrote down a note for myself here. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this one, but like, if things start to get really bad, like, is selling the company still an option? Because to me, if Vince is no longer the, if he's not going to be involved, if it's not his, fingerprints anymore, doesn't it make it more likely that he's willing to take mountains of money for it and it goes elsewhere? Like, that was already a rumor for like the last 2 years. Doesn't that become even more feasible now? Or
I think so, because that's the general idea with them firing everybody. That we have to make the company as profitable as possible to people interested in buying the company. And I think Nick Khan, who has no real wrestling history, I mean, I think he's real good friends with The Rock, but other than that, I don't know if there's really much wrestling history for him. The rumor has been that Nick Khan came along and Vince liked him so much that he put him in the president spot. And Khan has been trying to make the company more, sellable, essentially. And we're in the process of that. We don't know to where or to who or how much, but I think the idea is, how can we make this company as profitable as possible to therefore field some interest in buying the company. And I think we might be headed there. I don't know what Vince stepping down really says to that. Are these going to damage the stock price?
Now, I on one hand, I kind of hope it does happen. On another hand, I kind of hope it doesn't happen. Do they simply sell to the highest bidder? If someone's willing to pay a lot more than someone else, like if it's not close, or do they get picky with who they sell it to? George Lucas got picky. George Lucas sold Star Wars for less money to Disney than he had on the table from elsewhere. So do they approach it from that point of view? Because I'm sitting there thinking about a guy that runs another pretty big wrestling promotion who likes to buy companies lately, and I would hate to lose the competition side of it, but another part of me is like, is there some possibility that he comes in and is just like, I'm buying this thing? Kenny, does he have that sort of financial resources, even with his dad?
Maybe.
For those that don't know, I'm talking about Tony Khan and AEW, but
I wouldn't put it past making an offer. I could see that happening, depending on what the asking price is. But I think they also care, like you said with George Lucas, picking someone who, not for the money, but kind of what does it mean for the future of this property? And I think WWE might look at it that way, maybe. It's too valuable of a property to just buy it and then, ship it out. I think there would be some care given to who buys it.
I mean,
hey, Disney absolutely
I wouldn't count that out.
Not at all, and I mean, they're buying up everything else. So yeah, right.
Oh man, I don't know how I feel about that PG WWE forever.
Well, I'm hoping. Well, apparently, so that
happened
story.
When I
yeah, so the rumor came out that they were going TV 14 last week, and nothing really came of it. They weren't agreeing to it yet. The TV people didn't necessarily know about it, and the reason behind it apparently was Kevin Dunn was just sick. He wanted to be lazy enough to not have to catch the curse words. That was the main reason behind it. He didn't want to have to listen for the curse words and catch them. Yeah. Ridiculous.
I need to take another hit after that. Holy.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, get that guy out of here.
He's so detrimental to the company. It's terrible.
So let's say Kevin Dunn needs to go. Who could be, in your opinion, the future? This is the guy who's the absolute head of creative. He's the guy that's going to shape both products, Raw and SmackDown, or maybe one of the two. Will they get to that? Is Triple H just sort of a given, or is there somebody else that they could bring in to sort of freshen things up a bit?
I'm on the fence with who I like, only because he was given an opportunity to be the head of creative of Raw in 2020, and obviously, the pandemic happened, and it kind of...
Linton just posted this.
Oh, good. He came back. So I'm sure they're counting their lucky stars right now.
How much money he was paid to do that.
Yeah. Maybe he just went to go get Starbucks.
One problem solved for them, I suppose.
But I'm thinking...
a couple days from now.
So the problem with creative is when AEW came around, WWE kind of panicked and went with the two guys who Vince trusted as creative minds, which are the only two guys who ever battled him realistically, creatively, which was Eric Bischoff on SmackDown and Paul Heyman on Raw. Well, Eric Bischoff only lasted a month and got fired. Paul Heyman ended up booking Raw for probably 6 to 8 months. And it was good, but Paul Heyman is a very slow burn kind of booker. So he was putting pieces in place for guys like Malachi Black and Bobby Lashley and all these guys who were in the third match. He was giving them stuff to hopefully one day, a year down the road, hey, these are our SummerSlam main eventers, because he always looks to the future. Vince didn't like the idea after long enough, and he's like, no, we got to go with, Goldberg and whatever. So I would like to see Heyman be given full reins. I know him and Stephanie are kind of, not the greatest of friends. But I think Heyman is a guy who could have a long-term vision for the company as long as it's hands off. Leave him alone with what he wants to do, and he knows what gets over, and just let him do it. He did fine for SmackDown in 2002, a very memorable period, and he did what he could for Raw in 2020, and the ECW in 2006 was so micromanaged that I wouldn't want to take credit for that anyways. They had some Walking Dead characters on there, like the zombie with his legendary promo.
I remember I'm not like super hardcore wrestling fan, but back then I was watching, weekly. I was a big Rob Van Dam guy. So when Van Dam beat Cena and ECW was opening up, I was fucking over the moon.
Yep.
And by like the second month, which was probably about the time he got arrested and had to drop it, I'm just wondering what the fuck I'm watching at this point.
Yeah, they just flipped it on its head, and it didn't feel... It's funny because after that one night stand, everyone felt like, hey, this is the ECW we want. We can handle a little Kurt Angle and Big Show here and there. But then it just, we're getting Test, we're getting fucking, it became something totally different from what it should have been, unfortunately.
Oh man, I just checked. Brock Lesnar is in fact back.
Okay. And David is right in chat. Heyman is better than Pritchard because Pritchard is a Vince yes man. Now Pritchard has history. He started in Houston in the 70s, but the problem with Pritchard is he's a WWF 90s guy. He's the reason NXT 2.0 is what it is right now, with a lot of, oh hey, this guy's a mob guy, and this girl is a girl who sleeps during matches. Like, everyone has to have such a childish gimmick. And that's why WWF was in the fucking toilet in 95. So he's not a modern booker, and I don't think it works now. Unfortunately, but hey, Pritchard can fuck off because, I guess he's a liar with Heyman too. So
let's dive into the chat. I do have a couple more questions, but let's see what the chat is saying about this, because it's actually pretty active, man. Buddy says wrestling was at its best in the 80s. Do you think 80s is the best decade?
Yes. I think the NWA in the 80s was a very good promotion because they had workers up and down the card. WWF at the time, you didn't really have that. You'd have guys who could put together a match, not necessarily in the main event, but I think the boom in the 80s was very special because you had Hogan and the era that he carried, and then on the other side you had Flair and his guys, and it was a very good, healthy time to be a wrestling fan, because if you didn't like one, you could go to the other. And then we went 20 years without it, and now we've got AEW, and it's like, hey, we have an alternative. So this is cool. And ideally, it would make both promotions try harder. Unfortunately, WWE is not exactly trying harder. But there's a cool story in the 80s from WWF was expanding around, and they decided, hey, we're going to go run Alabama. Well, the Alabama territory was Continental Championship Wrestling. And wouldn't you know it, the ring didn't show up for the WWF card that night. Oh, shit, that's bad news. So WWF sent guys across the street to where Continental Championship Wrestling was running a show. And they said, hey, we need a ring. Can you loan it? Can you, we'll pay for a ring and whatnot. So the promoter says, here, give them this number. It's more than they'll ever pay, So gives them the number. They get it cleared. They pay for the ring, bring it in. It's a Continental Championship Wrestling ring that has the CCW logo in the middle of the ring for the WWF card that night.
That's crazy.
Unfortunately, no pictures exist, but it would have been fun to see.
That's too bad. Oh, man. There's got to be someone that has a picture somewhere that just hasn't posted it on the internet or something. And
yeah, right?
That'd be a gold mine.
It's too different of a moment. You got to capture that shit.
Do you know what the number was?
No.
One of those. David Irwin says he covered up the Pat Patterson ring boy scandal and helped Snuka get out of murder by interfering with the investigation. Never mind the lack of accountability around Owen Hart's death. I remember the latter two there, obviously, especially Owen. What's this about Pat Patterson?
Okay, so in 91, 92, right around when the steroid trial was kicking off too, so these kind of coincided with each other. But Pat Patterson and another agent, Terry Garvin, were, I guess, molesting ring boys, people who were putting the ring together, and underage people in the locker room and whatnot. And now people knew that Pat Patterson and Terry Garvin were gay at the time, but nobody really made a big deal about it, which is kind of amazing for 1992. And so these stories started coming out, and then Pat Patterson kind of got, he went away for a little bit, but then he came back as like this, hey, welcome back, you're back in your position. And then Terry Garvin got fired for the same thing, and he just got, exiled as the guy who kind of took took the blame for the whole thing. And so Vince,
Sounds familiar.
exactly, Vince helps out Pat Patterson and brings him back. So, and that's a criminally underreported story that nobody really knew about. And then I guess it's been brought up multiple times now with the whole Vince story that's occurring now. So, yeah, definitely Google that. I know, I think Bix wrote a story about it in like 2018. So definitely Google Pat Patterson, Ring Boy, Mel Phillips. You'll get some information on that. I don't know the full details, but yeah, it's
shocked for you to see a dark side of the ring on that one.
Yeah, exactly. God forbid. They might not let them use the footage for that one.
End of an era from Vince Sr. to Vince. Then would Shane, Stephanie, or Triple H want to run this? Maybe. Back in the day, Ted Turner would have.
Ted Turner would have bought the company. I firmly believe that. He was very anti-Vince. And I was actually listening to a podcast the other night, and I didn't put it together at the time, but the movie No Holds Barred in 1989 that Vince and Hogan wrote over a weekend Coke binge in Florida, I believe it was, in a hotel room. Yeah. If you've never seen the movie, check it out. It's phenomenal. Hulk Hogan, No Holds Barred. And I didn't kind of put together the hidden context in the movie. So this TV mogul guy comes to Rip, which is Hogan, who's working for the WWF, and he tries to buy him out. And Rip says, no, and he shoves the check in his mouth, and I won't be here when this cashes. And so this other TV guy puts together his own, promotion, essentially. It's, guys fighting in a bar, but it is what it is. And he gets his own star, Zeus. And then Zeus beats up Rip's brother, and that causes Rip to fight Zeus. So what I didn't put together in the movie was that's essentially Ted Turner trying to buy WWF wrestlers. And this was in 1989. And Vince kind of threw shade that way. I was listening to my buddy do a podcast on it, and I was like, I never put that together.
Wow. That's incredible.
And Hogan being all loyal to the WWF, which he was for about another 3 or 4 years. So it's funny how it kind of turned around, and Hogan ended up going to the other company.
Full circle. In a way, anyways, because then he ends up coming back. So
yeah.
Although kind of got bought out.
Yeah, and now they released 17 million figures of
them. I will say, under wrong leadership and someone who could actually run the company into the ground, wrestling may disappear from mainstream media for a while. I would say that AEW has gotten big enough that it's in mainstream media. At least it is up here in Canada. It's covered quite well, to be honest. Oh, we got to talk about that, though, as the chat continues to fill up. So I seen the AEW to Toronto thing. But then I saw someone put out there today. I might have been, who does WON?
Meltzer.
Okay. They threw out Rogers Center.
Yeah, he asked the question, hypothetically speaking, if AEW was to run a pay-per-view at a stadium in Canada in either November or February, where would it be and what would it draw? And I mean, I think it would draw well. I don't know about Rogers Center. That feels
I don't know how cheap the tickets are.
Yeah, if you're just getting your foot wet in the market, I probably wouldn't do that immediately. I would do Scotiabank Arena. Is it even Scotiabank Arena anymore?
Hey, you could go real crazy, take a chance on the weather, and do BMO Field.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Yeah, do something where I think just not put all your chips in one show. WCW came up here in November of 99 for a pay-per-view, and they sold out the Air Canada Center. I think they did. But it's an underrepresented market for other companies. WWE runs, there's 3-4 shows a year here, which is fine. And we're getting, we got SummerSlam 2-3 years ago, something like that. So it's not bad, but I mean, I think judging by the ratings in Canada, which are apparently phenomenal for AEW, I think there is a live market here. And apparently AEW was planning to come up here a hell of a lot sooner before the pandemic happened. Yeah. So it's in their plans. I just don't know what would be the best time to do it.
Realistically, if I were them, I would do what they do for Double or Nothing. Obviously not Double or Nothing, but do that whole week thing. End it in Scotiabank Arena. You can do your big, what is it? Star, what do they call it? Star something?
Star, what the hell is it called?
I know, I can't remember.
Yeah, what the hell?
That big event is always attached. I was going to say Starcade, but that's not it. That's a WCW paper.
Yeah. Starcast? No.
Is it Starcast? I don't know.
It is Starcast. Yes.
Starcast.
All right.
So you could do one of them or something like that. Do the Dynamite taping too, and like
make a week of it or whatever.
I think there's more than enough interest. I would even go. I would absolutely go to that.
Yeah, like I went to the WrestleCon that High Spots did in Toronto in 2011. Yeah, me and Johnny went. And it was cool. Like you had all these other things to do outside of the wrestling shows. And I think that's important when you're doing like a weekend thing. Give people other options other than just wrestling shows. Let them go meet, whatever. I was standing behind JJ Dillon at the hotel check-in. And I kind of cornered him and I was like, hey, can I get you to sign your book? And also, can I buy your book off you? Did you bring any copies? So like, it's a cool experience for fans, give them that weekend of stuff. And actually I saw Sami Zayn at that same convention as El Generico, and he refused to break character. Like, how you doing? He's like, see, or whatever. And I was like, okay.
I think there's more than enough interest up here to do that. I think that if they did something big, they could go Rogers Center, but you're not selling your tickets for very much. Like you're talking like upper bowl, they got to be like $10 a pop.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can't expect.
Although I do wonder if Rogers Center is cheaper to rent than Scotiabank Arena. Scotiabank Arena is newly renovated. Rogers Center still needs to go through its renovation, which I believe begins this winter. So that probably rules that out.
Yeah. I mean, and like we're getting Raw at Scotiabank next month, and tickets aren't entirely unreasonable, but I mean, it's like, $180, I think, for upper bowl. I'm like, showing it worth that.
$180 for upper bowl.
Something like that. I think it's like maybe 160, but definitely.
That's Leaf game price range.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, don't you know they're the leader in sports entertainment?
Actually, I changed my answer. If they were going to do Toronto, because I don't know what this policy is where WWE has like a lease on certain arenas where other wrestling promotions can't come in. I don't know if that's a thing.
Good point. WWE does that. That's why they had to do Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York.
But there are multiple facilities in Toronto that you could fill up, 10,000 fans or 5,000 for a Dynamite. You could do an outdoor pay-per-view at Scotiabank, not Scotiabank, BMO Field. Yep. You're taking a chance on weather. You just are.
Yeah.
But, you do it during the right time, and I think that would be a blast just to have an outdoor AEW event. I don't think it's happened yet, other than Daily Place, which I
don't think they've actually done a true outdoor event yet, other than Daily's Place being open air in a way. But yeah,
that'd be cool. I'd be down.
Yeah, for sure. That would actually be really cool. Because and it's funny because they do an outdoor event in Canada of all places, not like Florida.
By the way, how awesome is it that they didn't do the whole Soldier Field ID I kept throwing out there if Punk doesn't end up being good to go, which I don't think he is, although I do see way more talk about that on the internet the last couple of weeks. It makes me wonder.
I saw an article literally right before it came on, updated plans for Jon Moxley. AEW is hoping to run Moxley versus Punk at All Out. Obviously, that will depend on the health of Punk, who is out after a foot injury. It is believed he will recover from foot surgery by Full Gear if he's not ready by All Out. All that is known right now is Moxley will definitely headline All Out, but no opponent has been announced as of yet.
If they do take a chance on Punk, I wonder if there's a way where, like, obviously the only time we've seen them on screen together at AEW, they got along. They were tag team. They referenced past history.
Didn't they team up and face FTR one week, I think?
Yeah, they beat them.
Yeah. That was a fun show. That was the Hangman Archer match, too.
At one point, FTR was going over in that match.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. But I honestly, I think that I think there's a way you can have Punk and Moxley, depending on how the foot is, at All Out without expecting Punk to do any of his top rope stuff, is have them get into it. Like, Regal has already taken multiple shots at Punk for no reason. Have them just, I know it sounds unsafe, but have them have a brawl where it's outside and stuff, where you can probably protect him more, where he's not going to leap off the top rope at you or anything.
Yeah, I mean, do the Punk Kingston match they did. I mean, that was 11 minutes, and they just beat the tar out of each other, and there was no fucking jumping and flips and whatever. It was two guys.
Extend it 5 or 6 minutes if you get to 17, 18 minute main event where they're just beating the shit out of one another. And
Moxley gets color, and
Omega shows up at the end and puts both down or something. I don't know.
Yeah, there's ways around it if they want to bring back. I mean, and even then, Punk doesn't need to wrestle on TV for a month after that. Yeah. He can just do promos or whatever, and whoever he'd be facing at Full Gear.
I don't know if there's anybody more in that company. You would know more than I, but like, as my perspective, I feel like if Punk was going to trust someone with him, he'd probably trust Moxley just from past history.
He trusted him enough to shit his pants on SmackDown with him, so I'd hope so.
I didn't know that was with him, but
yeah.
Oh man, it's wild. It's wild. Linton says, "Oh, sorry, there was a Greg. I don't know what he's talking about here, man. Is this a real thing?"
The Boogeyman?
Yeah.
Yeah, he used to eat worms.
Oh, the clock guy. The clock.
Yes, the clock guy. Yes.
Boogeyman.
He wasn't pushed harder because he fucking sucked in the ring. He was a great gimmick, but once that bell rang, gimmick can only carry you so far.
Was he Heidenreich bad? Because I
pretty much
can't him at all.
Yeah.
And then I don't know why that even came up in my head. Probably a little high. But when they tried to make them the new Road Warriors,
oh Jesus! Yeah.
Oh my God, that was really tough to stomach.
Yeah, just brutal. I mean, they tried so many things with that guy, and him. Looked like he was raping Michael Cole in the closet there or whatever that angle was. Just fuck.
Jerry says, Sean, you're an RVD guy. Gee, I wonder what you and RVD have in common. We both have great thick hair.
Yep. Yeah. Definitely.
I don't know what else.
Sometimes you point at yourself. Yeah.
No idea what else you could be talking about. RVD's one of the best wrestlers. Are you an RVD guy, man?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. The first episode of ECW on TNN that aired, it was the first time we had gotten ECW in Canada at the time. It was August 27th, 1999. And they kind of did a little best of episode to kind of introduce the characters and all that. And the first match they aired was RVD versus Jerry Lynn at Hardcore Heaven 1999. And that just sold me on RVD. It was a great match. And Jerry Lynn broke his face on the fucking floor.
CMZ pack. Oh, fuck. That's
Yep.
Gonna kill my lungs, man. This, I don't know what he's talking about.
Yes, I saw the 2-pack there, the ultimate 2-pack. It looks amazing. So good. It's awkward for me.
Posted on Dark Match. Is that?
I think I posted pictures of it on Dark Match Drive. Yeah.
So there was one of Hogan that I didn't like. I couldn't place where it was from. So
yeah, there's. Oh man, I posted probably a dozen pictures of the Mattel reveals from San Diego Comic-Con with all the figures. So yeah, check out Dark Match Drive Facebook page. It's awesome. All your wrestling news and info.
We're going to get through the rest of these questions and get off of here, guys. So if anybody has any other questions, now's the time to submit them.
Oh, man.
Better movie than No Holds Bar.
Oh, man. Okay, so there are so many good, awful 80s wrestling movies that are out there. There's Body Slam, there's No Holds Barred, there's Grunt. Grunt is so bad, but so good. Highly recommended if anyone hasn't seen it. The movie starts and this guy gets his opponent in the Cactus Jack where he gets his head caught in the ropes, and then he comes off, hits a drop kick, and his head pops off. That's the start of the movie. It's all downhill from there. But yeah, Body Slam is okay. It's fair. Yeah, I agree.
I can't remember.
The whole part isn't exactly a high watermark.
When I was younger, I used to watch a bunch of bad wrestler movies. I remember seeing, I think it was a couple with Roddy Piper, and I remember seeing Bret Hart on some Western show that was.
Oh God, Lonesome Dove.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, in between that and their 89th adaptation of Anne of Green Gables.
I remember seeing Bret and Owen Hart on I think it was Much Music or it might have been MTV. And they both had long hair, and they were on there with the Offspring at the same time. And for whatever reason, I'm super young at that point. The Offspring has long dreads going. And so I just assumed at that time, oh, Bret Hart and Owen Hart are in the Offspring. That's amazing. Legitimately how I became an Offspring fan. And then my dad broke my heart. He's like, no, they're not in the Offspring.
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
I had to be. This would have been 92, probably. So I'm 4 or 5 years old. So.
Yeah. Hey, they're in. Oh, I love that band now. Cool. That's fantastic.
Oh man. Jerry also says Sean and Dave McRae for next Prime Minister of Canada. Sean before Dave, legalized pot. That's already done. National Bird is the middle finger, and it's me, Billy, 24/7 on state TV. I'll let Dave have that job. That job doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun. I'll just sit here and do this. I have more than enough stress to deal with. I wouldn't want that stress too. David Irwin, Jeremy, do you see Vince selling his shares to Stephanie, Triple H, and Shane to manipulate some control from the shadows if forced to share? Sounds like very Palpatine going on.
Yeah, I think because they're a publicly traded company, people would probably put two and two together on that. I don't know how many shares Shane still has. I know he's sold a lot, so I don't know if he's still within the that universe. What a word. But yeah, I don't know if Shane is still there, but I think if Vince tried that, people would probably see through it because they would have to announce what shares are being sold to whom and whatnot. So hopefully there's safeguards in place for that. But I wouldn't put it, I mean, that being said, I wouldn't put it past him trying. So, Vince has always been the puppet master, and he just might have to find creative ways to maintain his control.
By the way, Richard, how's it going, bro? Hopefully all is well, man. It's been way too long. We need to make some time to do something together sometime soon. Bills still suck though. Anyway, hey, my Titans haven't won anything, but have the Titans played the Bills since the Music City Miracle in the playoffs?
Ooh,
I don't think they have. I think they had
two
chances lately and didn't.
Yeah.
So until your Bills beat my Titans in the playoffs, you still got nothing. And I mean, I'm really a closet Tom Brady fan. So, one of the best WWE segments I've seen, The Rock dissing Booker T in 2001. Is that where he's meeting Booker T and he's like, "It doesn't matter what your name is."
Yep.
I think that's when I think he might have. Is that the first time he broke out "Who in the Blue Hell Are You"?
I think so. Yeah. Because he had come back, because he wasn't there for the the very start of the invasion angle, and then he came back leading up to SummerSlam. So he had been gone for a couple of months leading into that.
Stone Cold almost running over Vince with his ATV in 2005. I'm gonna take what you gave us, Kenny. I'm gonna put it into a ball and throw it back at you and say a segment that's better than both of those is Austin and Booker T in the grocery store. Oh my God!
Yeah, that's fair. That was a great segment.
Oh,
Austin coming up behind in the background.
I like when he comes out with the milk. It just starts.
Yeah.
Oh,
so good.
And yeah, I love that. Richard says he's so pumped for House of the Dragon and Rings of Power. I'm not super pumped for Rings of Power, but I'm not a big Lord of the Rings guy either. I am going to watch it though, so I can follow it to the channel. I'm way, way, way more pumped for House of the Dragon. It looks insane.
I'm excited for House of Power.
The crossover no one knew was coming. What's west of
no one wanted. The ratings are in the toilet. What are we doing?
What's west of Westeros? That!
The elves have sided with the Targaryens.
Oh man, could you imagine? Michael Scott says he declares bankruptcy. I'm sorry.
Oh no,
that's terrible.
Poor Dunder Mifflin.
No problem, Linton. Take it easy, bro. Same with you, Mr. David Irwin. I know you guys are way out there on that other coast, so it's like 3 o'clock in the morning or something. So thanks for staying up with us. That's nuts.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
We're getting ready to shut her down here anyways. Greg says, the Kane-Braun Strowman feud was so awesome. I definitely wasn't watching at that point, so I don't know what that is. But they made Kane look weak. I hated that. Kane deserved better.
Yes and no. I mean, I think by that point, Kane was kind of in the position of put over the new guy. And, I mean, the Braun Strowman project didn't really work out either, so it was kind of...
Kenny mentions that he loves that segment. And we'll give the final one to Mr. Richard Moore. He says, saying my Twitch and all that was always named House Targaryen. Well, Richard, I'm not going to make you rewind all the way back in the video, although it would, help the channel out. But we said earlier that it just came out, like within the last 24 to 48 hours from George R.R. Martin, that this batch of characters, the Matt Smiths and the Rhys Ivans and Paddy Considine, I think I just butchered his last name. This group of characters, their story, they think is going to last 4, maybe 5 seasons. House of the Dragon, the TV show, as long as it's successful, would continue, and they would go back even further in time and do a couple seasons of Aegon the Conqueror. And then they hinted at they would go forward in time past both those shows to a story that a lot of fans have wanted to see told that might make them go mad, which is obviously the reference of Robert's Rebellion, the Mad King. So the idea, like, that if this show went, let's say it went 8 years, if you got 4 seasons with the characters that we're about to get, which is what he said, this will be the longest, it's sort of like an anthology show, but this will be the longest story. And then you get, say, 2 seasons of Aegon and then 2 seasons of Robert's Rebellion. I'd be cool with that. I'd like that. And I think Jared said he'd like that earlier too. Could be wrong though. That's going to do it. Jared, where can everybody find you at, man?
You can find me on Twitter at Jamie Virtue. You can find me on Facebook. The Dark Match Drive is a Facebook page that I run for all your wrestling news and information and videos and all sorts of content. If you're a wrestling fan, head over there. It's a private group, so just apply and they'll get you in there and you can join the fun. We also have a Discord attached to Dark Match Drive. I run a Google Drive page for $10 a month for over almost 5 terabytes of wrestling. So if you like wrestling content, I'm your guy.
Awesome, man. Well, I definitely appreciate you joining me tonight on this one. It was a fun one. We talked a lot of wrestling. I think this is the most where the wrestling has like been the biggest topic on the show by this much. I know we've went on like for an hour before on a 4-hour show or something.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a huge day in the world of wrestling, or I guess he would want us to call it sports and entertainment. Just want to let everybody know that they can find some other stuff that the other guys at the channel have going on and where they can find that at. Mike Bish has the Take One podcast, which I believe you can find on Spotify and Apple Podcast. We have House of the Empire. We have a brand new episode coming your way Monday morning, and then I believe we're also recording Monday as well. So that would put us at episode 4. You got lots of House of the Empire content coming, which is obviously our Game of Thrones show. Want to say thanks to Jason for coming on board the channel. He's going to be a big help moving forward. You check Johnny out on Twitch, Bros Before Pros Gaming. Does he even do that much? I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah. I watched his Quarry.
I want to get that. That looks good.
Yeah. He did a couple nights of that not long ago.
Definitely want to get that. And then on Patreon, you can check us out. Hopefully Sunday night. Don't know for sure, but hopefully Sunday night we're going to do a big Halloween Ends dive in, where we'll have an open mic again. We'll allow you to come on and share your thoughts. And you can join Patreon at patreon.com/Fandom Empire. Empire, yeah. Fandom Empire. I think it's time to go, ladies and gentlemen. Big thanks to Caitlin, who was in the chat earlier, Mike Bish, who was here. I don't know if any of the other mods were around or not. And to you, the audience, thank you for spending some of your Friday night with us. Have a great weekend. And it's a new era of wrestling for the WWE. Let's hope that it's better than the last one.